Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the Duron Morning Show. Today is Thursday, March 4th, and this is episode 37, Enough Money to Go Around. It's going to be a beautiful Thursday. We are almost at the weekend. This has been one of the longest weeks ever for me, so I can't wait for tomorrow, for Friday. And I made today's episode Enough Money to Go Around. You guys know I always like to give you the background of where the episode came from. This one wasn't really from Twitter or anything that's going around. Slightly. But there is, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a huge bill going around, or being proposed, I guess I should say, that is going to be called like the ultra tax or ultra millionaire tax. So if you make over, I believe the starting point is like 50 million, it might be 500, it might be a zero off, which is a huge difference. You have to start paying a percentage of what your net worth is. So I do believe it starts at 50 million, then it starts to scale up as you go up, like exponentially. So 50 million, based off your net worth, you have to pay, I believe it's like 0.5% or 1%. And then 100 million, it goes up 0.5%. And then 500 million, it goes up another 1%. And then 1 billion, it goes up like another 1%. And then I believe per billion, it goes up like a 0.1 or a 0.01 or something like that. So to give you context, I don't know what he paid prior, but under this new tax, Jeff Bezos, who is, everyone knows, the richest man in the world, would have to pay an additional $5.7 billion in taxes. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it because everyone knows, like, I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I don't like people accounting other people's money, but we've come to a point where the ultra rich have to pay something. They can't keep getting away paying nothing or getting all these tax breaks. So I mean, I don't know if this plan itself is going to be the one. I don't know all the semantics of it, but I'm here for them at least doing something. There's no reason for why. And 5.7 billion sounds like, oh my gosh, that's so much money. But Jeff Bezos in one day this year made $13 billion. Just one day. That's absurd. So imagine if you made $100. I'll even use the same thing. Imagine if you made $13 and then someone later on that year said, yo, you think I could get $6? You think I could get $5.70? They'd be like, I mean, yeah, sure. Like, I don't mind. Even if you had $200, like he has, in relative to take out the billion, if you made $13 one day and then now you only have 200, and someone said, "Yo, you think I get $6?" You're like, "Yeah, I got 200. I'll give you $6. Like, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I could easily make $6 back, but obviously with the zeros, I know it's obviously a huge, complete difference. 6 billion is a big difference than $6, but all of these plans that are being proposed to help the less fortunate, I won't even call them poor because myself, I'm not quote unquote poor, but I like the stimulus checks too. I need the help. Like it's a rough time for not only me, my family, but other families out there. I don't have it nearly as bad as some of the people that don't have jobs or don't have work that they can get to put food on the table. There are children out here starving in the United States of America. It's supposed to be the quote unquote richest country in the world, and this and that. But the only people that are rich, it's not a rich country. It's the 1% are rich, and then there's everybody else. And the top 10% of the people in America control 90% of all of the money in America. That doesn't make any sense. So, excuse me. So I'm here for the ultra millionaire tax and other plans. What really made me start this video or do this episode is while I'm working, I think I've said this to you guys before. While I'm working, what I do is how do I explain this? While I'm working, what I do is I turn on videos, whether it be documentaries, it could be anything, and it helps me get through work. I can't watch it because I'll get really distracted. I've never been diagnosed, I guess I should say, with ADHD, but I cannot focus. If I hear something, Like, it's really bad for me. So or rather, if I see something, that's what I meant to say. If I hear something, it's fine. Like music, there's no video or anything like that. I can just work throughout the whole day. But I try my best. They say that you should use your time wisely. So I can't really do audiobooks or anything like that because I have to keep rewinding it. Because while I'm focusing on work, the person will say something, a part of the story, and I'm like, wait, I missed that. Then I got to keep rewinding it, and to me, it's a little bit of a hassle for me personally. So I gave that little spiel to say I watched this video from, I believe it was from Wisecrack on YouTube, if you want to watch it yourself, and it was called "What Went Wrong with Billionaires." And they just tried. The video was describing exactly how, one, Billionaires came about, but two, how Billionaires came about, but two, where it went wrong and how we've gotten to the society we have today. So they started out by saying that first and foremost, billionaires or the ultra rich isn't exactly a new thing. However, the concept of multiple people being ultra rich is a very, very new thing. Like when I say very new, I mean in the last 150-ish years. So, for example, the ultra rich before were kings or monarchs. They just had all the money because they had all the power. But regular civilians that owned companies weren't ever rich. You might own your own farm or your own industrial, like, not industrial, because we ultra rich came in the industrial era. So like I said, you might own your own farm or your own saloon or whatever, but you weren't ultra rich. You might be a little bit better, like, or a little bit well off than someone else to your right or to your left, but you didn't have millions and billions of dollars. So the concept of the ultra rich or millionaires and billionaires really started after the Civil War. After the Civil War, that is when the railroad industry really started to boom. So people like Rockefeller and Carnegie and I know I'm missing someone. There was like a big three back then. Carnegie, Rockefeller, and there's one more. But anyway, everyone knows Carnegie like really owned the steel industry. And what do you need for railroad tracks? You need a lot of steel. And Rockefeller, I think it was him. I'm almost positive it was him. I know I'm missing somebody. But whether it was Rockefeller or someone else, they started to build the railroad tracks. And from there, like, they kind of had a monopoly. They built it the fastest, so they were like, hey, we need you guys to come build more tracks. And then where did he get the steel from? He would go get the steel from Carnegie, and then it was a cycle. So those two became ultra mega rich, like beyond people's wildest dreams. And during that time, it was crazy when I was watching this video. He was literally, this was all in the 1870s and 80s and 90s, and he was literally describing how our society is right now, except back then the people really fought for their rights or for more money more often because, well, we can jump into that later. Let me stay on the one concept. So after they started to monopolize these single businesses, whether it be railroads or steel industry or hotels or whatever, that is when they started to make uber dollars. They started to make crazy money. So what would happen is, like, regular people would try to start up businesses, and the ultra rich just kept coming in and buying them. So it was kind of like today, how where about 10% of the people in a span of 20, 30, 40 years, and the 10% of people at the top controlled like 90% of the money, literally just like today. And there started like a lot of riots, that started a lot of protests, that started like a lot of stuff. And at that time, you have to remember, there wasn't labor laws like how we have now. So if you weren't rich, you worked at your job 12 hours a day doing the same task like over and over and over again. You guys have heard me, if you have watched this before, you guys heard me say how I worked at Amazon, and I used to work at Amazon for 12-hour shifts and do the same task over and over and over again. It's the parallels are crazy. So, but the only difference is back then there weren't any accounting jobs or jobs where you could go get in the office. The only jobs there really were you could go to a coal mine or you could go to a factory, and that's really it. And then if you were really good, you might be able to make shoes. Like you might be able to make shoes from scratch for people or clothes. But most jobs, like the most ones, were trying to work in the steel industry, trying to work in the car manufacturing industry. Before there was Ford, they were just like obviously building the wagons and stuff. Ford, everyone gets it wrong. Like Ford wasn't the first one to build a car. He just built the assembly line, and he got it right, and he was able to make cars faster than everybody else. So there were still people working in factories before Ford. He just needed like less people because he had the machinery and the assembly line. So what I'm getting at is the advent of technology is what made a lot of people rich, and this concept is started in the 1870s, 1880s. It's only like 150 years old, and that's where like our capitalistic society really started to go downhill, because what would happen is the government, just like today, back then, that's when the companies started to ask the government for more subsidies. Hey, if we bring our businesses here, can you give us money? If we employ this many people, can you give us money? And that's when the government really, really started giving them subsidies. Or if they didn't want to, bribery was huge back then, because there wasn't much, like there wasn't the internet, there wasn't much accountability. If I'm from New York and I traveled all these days to I mean, we weren't huge back then either. We weren't little, but America wasn't massive. If I traveled all this time to see you and make a deal, and then it gets denied, well, now I've wasted my time. I might as well offer you this money and see if you take it. And they took it most of the time. So the government ended up being corrupt. There was the one example they even gave is there was, I don't remember his name, but one person stepped up and he was the first person like on a ballot for an election that said, you know what, I'm going to like get more rights for the working people and I'm going to help you guys. But the big businesses, Carnegie and Rockefeller, they threw all their money at, I think it was Andrew McKinley, I believe it was. They threw all their money at him, and like the other person just couldn't, quote unquote, advertise himself better or get himself out there more. So he lost, and the same corrupt government just kept on following. So where I'm going with all this is the parallels to back then were crazy, or to right now are crazy. But the only difference is back then they fought like really, really hard to get themselves rights, whether it be labor rights, whether it be union rights, whether all these different rights, because, and why they were able to do so successfully, in my very humble opinion, is because they weren't so distracted as we are today. And there was actually someone in the YouTube comments saying this as well, kind of like agreeing with me. A big thing they did is like people weren't listening to them, so they knew a lot of the rich people were going to this specific like opera one day. So they went a lot, like a huge amount of people went to this opera, and then like started yelling like some chant or something like that to get all of the rich people's attention and say, yo, like you guys gotta take us seriously or we're not going to be working for you guys. Back then they really had to sit in their pain or their suffering, like, wow, like these people are actually really, really rich and we are not. We can say it today like, oh man, they're rich and we're not, and then all we do is we go watch Netflix or we go get distracted by YouTube or the latest club or this thing or whatever. We are very, very distracted because it's just the society we live in today. So even though we might be quote unquote suffering or sad or need stimulus checks, people are still watching Hulu and Disney Plus and this, and they're at the minimum satisfied, at least for that moment, so that they can forget about the pain that they're in. The people back then in the 1880s, they didn't have that luxury. They were like, yeah, it sucks, and the most we can do is like go outside, and that's it. We might be able to sit inside and create a game or something, but they had to sit in their suffering. So they did a lot about it, and there was a lot of things passed. That's actually why everyone always complains and goes like, why do we have a 40-hour work week? They actually got that passed because they used to work 90-hour weeks. And people were dying. There were no labor laws. People, the 12-year-old children were working inside coal mines and inside factories. So they got laws that said, nah, you got to be 17 before you're legally allowed to work. You cannot work them over 40 hours without paying them overtime. You can't just make people slaves. So, I mean, it sucks now. Like, we always go like, yo, we really work 40 hours a week. We work 5 days a week and then rest 2. And then work 5 and rest 2. And it's just a cycle. But it was even worse than that before. So, to get to... I gave all that background to get to the main point of what I was trying to say. And the title of the episode is there is more than enough money to go around. And people don't have to live the way that they're living. 10% of the population does not have to control 90% of the money. So what I open with is the ultra millionaire tax or whatever. I think right now that's needed more than ever. I don't know if it will be Elizabeth Warren's, her exact plan that passes with her numbers with the 1% and yada, yada, yada. But I think they just need to understand that a percentage of their net worth or a percentage of their money is worth more than like what some people make in lifetimes. Lifetimes amount of money can go back to these communities. And also it's if it's done right. I want this in a perfect world. I want this ultra millionaire tax to be implemented, and they tax Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates and Elon Musk, and they make all this money, right? Billions and billions of dollars. But what are you going to do with the money? What are you going to do with it? Unless they're talking about taking that money and putting it into healthcare, putting it into education, putting it into, I guess, as of right now, this isn't going to be a thing that lasts, but as of right now, more stimulus bills or stimulus checks or something to try to stimulate the economy again. What are we taxing them and doing? Because if we're just going to sit on this money and then try to pay back our China loans or something, then there's no point. You know what I mean? The same concept kind of, this is really what made me want to get into it, but this is the same concept. The what we spend our money on, specifically in the United States of America. It's most other countries too, but at least they have a better infrastructure, which we'll talk about later. We as a country, in my opinion, waste a lot of money. And I've had this conversation with a lot of people, so... And obviously, like I always tell you guys, I try to do as best research as I can on these topics. So if it sounds like I'm furious about what I'm about to talk about, it's because I've been talking about this since, I think, 2016 when I was a sophomore in college. First and foremost, what we need to reduce, in my opinion, is the military budget. That's first and foremost. We have been, and I understand, so don't take this lightly when I say this, but we have been playing scared since the 2001 attacks on the Twin Towers. And I get it. Like, we were caught off guard, and it caused a lot of damage, and it was like, wow, I can't believe this happened. That was 20 years ago. As of this September, when September comes up, that was 20 years ago. So do that. I want you to keep these numbers with me. That was 20 years ago, right? Ever since then, it's been approved that we can scale our military budget like exponentially. So from... I don't even think it started exactly in 01. It might have been 04. But ever since 2004, we have always had a military budget that was, at the minimum, at least double of what the next country is. So, for example, I'll tell you our military budget right now. Our military budget that just got passed, and I'll even Google it, because I've been saying 750. I'll get you the exact number. I will get you the exact number so that I don't say something wrong. But it's $700 billion plus. That's what I do know. So, military budget 2020. The military budget that just got passed for fiscal year 2020 was $721.5 billion. And I'll tell you this. It says approximately $712.6 billion is discretionary spending, which means they can spend it as they please. You don't gotta spend it all. And with approximately $8.9 billion in mandatory spending, you gotta spend it on this with that amount of money. So think about that. And this is just 1 year. $721.5 billion, and you get $712.6 billion with your own discretion to spend it as you please. Just please spend it is what they're kind of trying to say. And you only have to spend at max $9 billion. So I can stop saying billion and it can be for more context. Say you asked me for some money and you said, yo, can I get $700? And I said, like, what do you need it for? And you said, well, I really only need $9, but I want $700. I only need to spend $9, but I'd appreciate it if you gave me $700. You'd be like, wait, what? Why don't I just give you $9 then, or 10, or I could even give you 20. If you only need 9, at least you could have some change left over for tomorrow or something. But I'm not even going to talk about that part. This has been the case for our budget each year. It's not something like, oh wow, this was a lot this year. It's $700 billion plus each year. Last year, I'll even look up 2019. So 2020 was $720 billion, all round down. I said 2029. It should be a 1. 2019. The 2019 budget, from what I'm seeing, was $686 billion, but I know it was more than that. And just for a percentile, it says how much of the budget is spent on military. It says each year about 15% of the budget is spent on military. How much of the budget is spent on education? 8%. So they spend 15% on military and 8% on education. That makes a lot of sense. It's awesome. That makes like total complete sense, if you ask me. Total sense. They spend double the amount on the military as they do education. So, if you read the description, it says, how are we going to get all the money to pay for this stuff when we already have the money? Whether it be a stimulus check, whether it be free college, whether it be free healthcare, whether it be, people hear the word free and they go, yo, where are we going to pay for this? We give tax breaks and all of these loans out to very, very rich companies when we do not have to do that. Everyone has heard me rant and complain about, there's no reason in this world that profit, remember I said the word profit, not just what they made, profit. So let me put it like this. Amazon in 2017 and 2018, they made, like, net sales, they made over $232 billion. That's like sales. But they have to spend money to make money. They got to pay for their website. They got to pay their employees. They got to pay a lot of people, right? So, profit, they made $11 billion that they get to keep and put back into the company. Guess how much money they paid on that in taxes? $0. $0. Zero. Because there's laws in place that allow them to do that. So we say, we don't have any money. What if we just had them pay 10%? I don't know what number you want to come up with. 10% per company that makes over like that amount, or if you make over a specific amount, you pay relative to that. You don't have to make a person that owns their own local liquor store or something. I don't know. They don't have to pay the 25% that Amazon should pay. They might have to pay 7% if they might have made net sales $110,000 in net sales, but the profit that they get to keep home or take home is $30,000 or something. then no, they shouldn't have to pay 25% because that doesn't make any sense. But someone like Jeff Bezos, yeah, or Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Apple, all of these companies, yeah, they should be paying their quote unquote fair share. If we were taxing who we're supposed to tax, whether it be individual people and companies, and we learned how to spend our money correctly, all of these plans would be more than doable, like more than achievable, I guess would be a better way to phrase it. I'll look up something else for you. How much to pay off all student loans? I forget, they came up with a number before. They're talking about, it's coming up with a student loan calculator. No. So it says there's about $1.5 trillion in federal student loan debt, right? So I just told you our military budget is $720 billion. And as they said, that's only 15% of our entire budget. If you do, I didn't even take that into consideration. I've never taken that into consideration. 720 billion. What it would be divided by 0.15, because that's what it is. 720 billion. Sorry guys, I got a lot of math going in my head because I have a point to prove. I have a huge point to prove, and it'll all be worth it. Just give me 1 second. I don't know if this math is right, but from what I'm gathering, it seems to be right. 15, I'll do it just like that. 100 divided by 15 would be 6.666666. So you times that number by, they said we only spent 15% of our budget on the military, so you times 720 billion. This is zeros, hundreds, millions, billions, times the 6. You get 4. I don't even know what number this is. I don't know if that's 4.8. I don't even know what number this is. That's hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. The budget for all of America is $4.8 trillion. And that's without us taxing the companies we're supposed to tax, the people we're supposed to tax. So why are people asking where is this money coming from? Like our budget isn't $4.8 trillion. So they say they want to stimulate the economy. People are paying money to Sally Mae and the U.S. I guess it's the U.S. government. They're paying money on these loans, and honestly, they're not even paying the loans. That's the truth of it. Like, it'll be different if people were paying the loans and that was stimulating the economy, but people don't pay them because they're like, it's cool. Like, it's fine. Like, if you say you guys are going to like ruin my life because I'm not going to pay them, like, it's fine. I gotta decide between paying my student loans or putting food on the table. I'm just not going to pay the student loans. So you guys might as well pay them all. What will happen is people will have more money. They'll have a freer wallet, I don't know if it's a word. They'll have more money, basically. When you have more money, you're more inclined to go to the movies, go to a restaurant, go out to Walmart and spend just a little bit more money. But you know what's happening right now? If people spend that money on Walmart, on Amazon, or wherever, the only one that sees that money is the company, because they're not paying any taxes. They're paying $0 in taxes. So if that same concept happened, you pay off everyone's student loans, right? It's a cycle. Let's put it like this. You tax the companies you need to tax. The Amazon, the big ones, the very large, like, think of the biggest companies you can think of. You tax them. And let's just say I'll use the Amazon thing. They made $11 billion in profit. So they have to pay $2 billion in taxes, right? That's fine. You still made $9 billion in profit. Like this, I need people to understand what I'm trying to say, right? Profit means they already paid all the shareholders. Actually no, I take that back, because that money does go into the shareholders' pockets. You can pay the shareholders with that. So let me back up. They've already paid all their employees. They've already paid all their bills, their liabilities. They've paid everything. The money that they're taking home and keeping is $11 billion. I'm not saying take their money, they won't be able to pay their bills. All that is already paid. That's already done. So out of their $11 billion, you take their $2 billion. So now they made $9 billion, which they still get to keep, which is astronomical. So they get to keep that, and you tax their $2 billion. So that's $2 extra billion that goes to our economy, right? Now imagine you did that. I'm just going to start spitfiring as many companies as I can, right? And I'll just tell you how many billions of dollars that is, and that's not even close to how many companies are out there. So let's say you did that with Google, Apple, Best Buy, Amazon, and Starbucks, and I've already done 7. I just named 7 really fast. That's $14 billion. That's not close to the amount of companies that we have out there, and that's already $14 billion. So imagine it was 100 that we did, right? Imagine it was 100, and they're all paying $2 billion. So that's obviously 2 times 100 is $200 extra billion, and which is still only, it's not even half of what our military budget is, but that's another issue. So we tax them, that's an extra $200 billion. Then we tax the people we're supposed to tax. Jeff Bezos by himself, his net worth is $200 billion. Elon Musk's net worth by himself is $160 billion. Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, what's that man's name? Berkshire Hathaway. I don't know his name. The guys from Google, the Walton family from Walmart. So you already made $200 billion off their companies. Now let's just assume from them you make another $75 billion. You just made $275 billion off the people you're supposed to tax correctly, right? Now let's say you did that over 5 years. That's over $1 trillion. And you reduce, let's say, so we just made $1 trillion out of quote unquote thin air, money that didn't exist, right? We just made an extra $1 trillion for the $4.8 trillion budget. We're at $5.8 trillion. And you're saying that you can't pay $1.5 trillion to eliminate the student debt so that people can spend more money? If you tax who you have to tax, and then you pay off the student debt, people will then spend more money at these companies. The companies will then make bigger profits, the profits that you'll be able to tax on. The CEOs and CFOs and COOs, the millionaires and billionaires will also make more money off their stocks. Then you will be able to tax them, who you're supposed to be taxing, and that will also in turn make the budget go up. So it's literally just a cycle, and and to be very honest, it's basic economics. But it's been very evident over the last 2 years to everyone, and if it hasn't been, your eyes have been closed. It's been very evident that the system is made to spend on what they spend on purpose, to not tax the people they don't tax on purpose. It's like, this isn't a joke. I was just giving this example yesterday, right? So they say that the people that we elect in office, the elected officials, are supposed to act on our behalf, right? So, for example, if you in New Jersey elect Phil Murphy is supposed to, because let's say he runs on, I'm going to do this thing for you guys, or you guys tell me what do you want. We tell him what he wants, or what we tell him what we want, and then they implement that into law. That's the way democracy is supposed to work. You work for the people, quite literally. And if you don't do what the people say when it comes for re-election time, they just get you out to someone who is supposed to do it. So I gave that basic background on democracy, right? So this, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's been a bill for $15 minimum wage supposed to be passing. If you haven't heard that, your ears have been closed. Please pay attention to what's going on in real life. There's a bill that is trying to establish a $15 minimum wage. Right now, the federal minimum wage around the United States of America, the richest country in the world, is $7.25. So if you worked an average 8-hour day, woohoo, you worked an 8-hour day. Quick math, you would make $60 that day, and that's before you get taxed on your $60. So if you went and you worked at anywhere and you said, this is the job I'm going to, anywhere that pays that amount, and you said, this is the job I'm going to do to pay my bills, like, cool. After you work a 40-hour work week that week, you will have made $300. And then for that month, you will have made $1,200. And the average amount of rent in the United States, the average is $1,450. But you only make $1,200. So where you live is already too expensive. And that's before you, at this point in our lives, phones are a necessity. So before you pay your phone bill, before you even eat and feed yourself, you're already negative 250 in the hole. So rents are going up, mortgages are going up, everything's going up except the minimum wage. So then when people's parents, not mine don't do that, I'm not coming at them. When people's parents ask them, like, yo, why are you guys so far behind? Like, a lot of my friends still live with their parents and stuff. I used to, like, not judge them, but just be like, yo, come on, don't you want to get out and stuff? It's a way bigger problem than we think is going on. You're very rare and very lucky if you don't live at home with your parents, plus 25 plus. You know, like, because literally it only makes sense for you to do so. Try to help them out, like with the rent and stuff, with your job. But it doesn't make sense for you if you make X amount of dollars to be negative already. Is what I'm trying to say. If you sign up and you're like, I'm going to leave the house or whatever, after you do the math, unless you're making uber money, which we just established a lot of people aren't right now, it doesn't make sense for you to do that. You will literally leave the house and already be negative in the hole because you wanted to be independent or whatever. You'll already be negative. So back to the math that I was saying, we created an extra $1 trillion over a 5-year span. But even if we don't do a 5-year span, let's go back to a 1-year span. It was $200 billion that we got from the companies, the Amazons, the yada yada yada. Then we got an extra 75 from the people that own them, the Jeff Bezos, the Elons, the Bill Gates, the people that own that type of money. So that's 275, right? Now, something else I didn't tell you guys about this $720 billion military budget. You don't have any context. $720 billion is a lot, but compared to other countries, like, is that enough? If we reduce our military budget, will we be now attacked? Will we be susceptible for people to now harm us? I don't think so. Number 2's China's military spending budget is about $250 billion if you round up. It's more like 220, but just for number's sake, about $250 billion. So if you don't remember, I just said ours is 720. If you do quick math, if you multiply 250 times 3, it's about 750. So our military budget is almost 3 times number 2. And that's not something that just happened this year. Like, that was a 2020 thing. No, it's been that way for about the last 12 years that we've been spending 3 times the amount as the number 2. But it gets better if you want more context. If you take number 2, 200 and plus billion, and then number 3 and 4 and 5, and you go all the way to 13, and then you add those up, number 2 through 13, you still will not have a military budget combined that is higher than the United States of America. So when I tell you that we're overspending and on military and underspending on everything else, we are. And I get it. We have the strongest military. What about it? Like, if we didn't do that, I'm not saying what we did or didn't do wasn't a bad thing. What we did or didn't do wasn't an issue. But this is like what we're supposed to be doing now. we already have established we have the best military. Like, it's an established thing. So why don't we do something different now? Why don't we take, and I'm not saying, hey, why don't we reduce the budget to what China's is or something? We still got to be on top. I get that. But instead of 720 billion, why don't we do 320? Why don't we do 420? Oh, wow. No pun intended. Come on, guys. Why don't we do 320, 450, whatever? Whatever the number might be. If theirs is, I'll even look it up. China military budget. China's in 2019 was actually, they reduced theirs. It was 175 billion. So they reduced theirs, but ours went up. So I'm going to look at military budgets around the world. That's what I want to look up. So they always give you different numbers. It just said 160 something, but whatever. So it said now the number went up to 732 instead of 720. So I'm sorry if the numbers like change, but I'll read you 2018 and then I'll read you 2019. So in which one is this? Well, this is 2020 now. I'm trying to go to, this is 20, which one is this? Whatever, I'll read you guys. This is 2020. It says, or the 2021 actually. It says 2021 military budget. The United States is spending $738 billion. And then China is spending 193. I'll do that quick math for you guys. 119. I'll do it like this. 738 divided by 193.33, right? We spend 3.8 times more than China does. And then number 3 is India. They don't even go over 100 billion. India's 64 billion. And then the UK 61, Russia 60, France 55, Germany 51, Japan 49, 48, 40, 31, 29, 22, 20, 19. So if you take all of those, it's probably more than 1 through 13 now. If you took all of those and went to ours, it wouldn't even be close. So if China's is 193 and ours is 738, is it okay for us to do 438, even if it's just for 5 years or something like that? I told you we just added 275 billion from taxing the correct people, right? So now if let's say we reduced the military budget $300 billion, and we'd still be spending 2.5 amount the times as China. 300 billion plus that 275, we just added $575 billion to our budget. So, yeah, we have more than enough money for healthcare and for this student debt thing, and the student debt thing is a one-time payment. It's not like the military budget each year is 738 or 700 plus billion dollars. If you took some money away from that for 2, 3, 4 years, you could go spend whatever you want on it again. I mean, I don't think that would be smart. I think you should then take that same money and put it into something else instead of that one-time payment. But if you did a one-time payment and paid off these student government loans for the people of America, new businesses would be created because the people would have more money. More money will be spent on these businesses that you should have already been taxing correctly. Which, like I said, it's a cycle, which will then make more money into Mark Zuckerberg's pocket and Elon Musk's pocket. But so then you can tax them for that. And then your total budget will then get higher. So the title of this episode is exactly what I'm trying to say. There is more than enough money to go around. And a big reason that I'm not going to act ignorant here. A big reason that we spend a lot more on our military budget than any other country is because we are in every single country. There's no country that does that like how we do. We have military bases in Germany, in the United Kingdom, in Japan, in Korea, in like all these places I'll just read them. We have military bases in Canada, in Brazil, Italy, Australia, South Korea. Like all the companies that are companies, all the countries that are lower, not lower. I mean, they're still in the top 15, but all these countries we have military. Russia is 5, so we don't have military bases there. But it says 3 India. I believe we do. Maybe we don't. 4 is United Kingdom. We do have military bases there. 6 is France. We do. 7 Germany. We do. 8 Japan. We do. So all these other people are like, oh, well, we can spend less on our budget because the United States got us. That's fine. They got bases here. So I don't know. There's got to be. I say this all the time on a lot of episodes and just in life when I'm talking to people. We gotta do better. There's gotta be something we could do. Like I said earlier in the episode, it's just that we're so distracted. It's so distracted. And I don't blame us. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I too allow myself to be distracted. It makes life easier that way when I don't have to think about things like this. But if we just take those distractions and go, I don't want to think about it, then they just keep on happening. It's going to be a cycle. And I will admit this one last thing because I'm looking at these charts. We also, but that's just sad though at the same time. That's just very sad. But it says for military budgets, the United States spends 3.4. Actually, I was looking at the wrong thing. Was I? Yeah, I was looking at the wrong thing. I'm not sad. It's not sad anymore. It's sad that we have this much money. Anyway, let me read the stats so you guys can understand what I'm saying. The United States, it says, spends 3.4% of its GDP on its military. So for those of you that don't know what GDP is, GDP, for lack of a better term, I don't know why I said lack of a better term trying to describe GDP. GDP in English is what I'm trying to say. It stands for gross domestic product, and what it determines is basically how much money our country has. So I believe last time I checked America's GDP, it was something like $17 trillion or something. And that doesn't mean how much money we have. That means how much money as a country is spent each year. So for example, when you go buy milk and groceries and stuff, that adds to the GDP. Yo, this light is just messing up so yeah, that's the best way to describe GDP. I'll even read the thing for it. But every time when I was in school and they tried to teach me GDP, I didn't understand because the way that they describe it. It says gross domestic product, or GDP, is the market value of all final goods and services from a nation in a given year. See, I hate that definition. What it is if you're spending money on stuff, it makes the GDP go up. That's the only way that I could understand it. If you buy, when they say goods, it just means like TVs and milk and gasoline, things like that. If you spend money on a good, it's final goods, then it makes the GDP go up. So last year, ours was This will be one of the last things I say because I still want to get to questions and then end the show. They do this weird. I don't even know how to describe this. Our GDP. Oh no, they finally did it. Last year, our GDP was $21 trillion. Then the next is China, which is $14 trillion, and then the next one is Japan, which that was actually a surprise. Japan is $5 trillion, and they make it easier for us to read. This is all in United States dollars. So I mean, even if you add, I guess we can spend. We're able, is what I'm trying to say. We're able to spend that much money on stuff because if you add number 2, number 3, and number 4 together on GDP, we have more. Do we have more than them combined? No, just number 1, 2, and 3 combined. 2 and 3 is 14 plus 5, which is 19, and we have 21. So that's why we're able to spend the money we can, because we have a lot of it. But look at China. China has $14 trillion, right? and what they spend on their budget is round up $7 billion. It's $200 billion. We only have a third of the amount of money. We have, how do I say this sentence? We have 33% more money than China does. If that's how I would put that. Anyway, we have 21 and they have 14. So I mean, if you divide that by threes, then like we have 7 more than them. 7 out of 21 more than them. It's a third. We have 33% more money than them. I think I'm saying that right. Regardless of what I'm trying to say, we spend 3 times the amount of money that they do when it's unnecessary. We have $7 trillion more dollars than them. And we said, you know what? Throw it in the military. And yeah, let me get to questions. I could have did a whole thing on that. How I want to wrap this up is the infrastructure that these countries has as well just outdoes ours. There's no, in Japan and in China, they have infrastructure, and what I mean is railroads and subways and stuff like that outdo ours exponentially. Our fastest trains, we're happy that our fastest trains go 60 miles per hour, 70 miles per hour, and it takes us forever to get places. But in China, Japan, Korea, they have bullet trains that can get people across their city with 120, 130 miles an hour. We're so far behind because we keep spending money on military. And and it's not even we spend all this money on military, and when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq and all those places, we didn't even do much. We didn't do anything. So what is this money going towards? All right, that's the last thing. Questions? Why is America built like this? The United States. It's not all of America. The United States. All right. If it's no questions, I will end it there. I'm sorry. When you guys watch this later on YouTube, I'm so sorry that the sun did this to me. It's coming out of my window at a weird angle, and it's shining on my face, which is messing up the video, and it's making me blind. But the video's ended now here anyway. I don't understand, man. If you look at these graphs, they're all on Wikipedia. If you guys want to look at these graphs, it says list of countries by military expenditures. All right, now this is how I want to end it. I wish I could turn the camera around and show it. This is in 2018. In 2018, the United States spent $648 billion. I don't even know if this is right. This is from Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. I think we spent more than that, but it says military expenditures by country in U.S. billions of dollars, 2018. The United States spent $648 billion. China was $250, and then it's a pie chart. You can see all these little slices. It says the rest of the world spent $292 billion, and we spent $650. So I'm going to take China out. I have to do this for myself, and I'll do it on camera for you guys. I'm going to take China out, and I'm just going to add everyone else. So Saudi Arabia is 67.6 plus India is 66.5 plus France did I do that right? Yeah, plus France is 63.8, and then Russia is 61.4 plus UK is 50 plus Germany is 49.5, plus Japan is 46.6, plus South Korea is 43.1, plus Italy is 27.8, plus Brazil is 27.8, plus Australia is 26.7, plus Canada is 21.6. We haven't passed the United States yet. Plus Canada is, which one I just do? I did 24, I meant 21.6, so minus, 3? 26.7 and then 21.6. So Turkey plus 19 plus Spain 18.2 plus Israel 15.9. We still haven't passed the United States. Plus Iran 13.2 plus Poland 11.6. I added all of the other countries, but it says rest of the world, so I can't do the rest of them. I took out number 2, and then I added number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I added number 3 through 19, and we still have a higher military budget by ourselves than all of them combined. Number 3 through 19. Yep. And that's how I will end the show. Don't ask where the money is. It's in the military. That's where it's at. And it's being given to companies like Yeezy. I don't know if you guys know this. Yeezy was given a small business association loan when the pandemic hit. So that's where our money's going to. Businesses that don't need loans and the military. I will end the episode there. And I hope we can do better, guys. That's all I will say. I hope we can do better. And I'll see you here tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. If you're still here watching the end of this, I appreciate you more than you know. You can follow me on all social media platforms at the Duron Coles, and I will see you guys here tomorrow at 7:30 for most likely a Free Think Friday. Peace. And I'll probably be talking about this again tomorrow. This blows my mind. See you guys.